Check, check. All right, how's everybody doing today? Hello. Welcome to the 20th anniversary of the Texas Pinball Festival. It's so amazing and we're super happy to be here. I'm Imoto with Marco's Specialties. We're one of the largest pinball parts distributors. So if y'all need parts, by the way, we have a free shipping code going on for everyone here at TPF. You can remember it's just TPF 24, good until next Saturday. So go home, get some rest, and then see what you need on your games, and then use that free shipping code. But I have two very special guests with me today, technicians Matthew Talley and Eugene Mosh. And they're gonna show you some stuff about tips and tricks for working on your games. Just real quick, how many, raise your hand if you own a pinball machine. Wow. Oh, wait, keep your hand up if you own multiple pinball machines. Nice. That is amazing. How about stand up if you have a pinball machine out here in the hall this weekend? Yeah, stand up. Yeah, you want to? He's like, I'll stand up. All right, awesome. Stand up, keep standing, keep standing. Anyone that has helped participate in this Texas Pinball Festival, helping organize, volunteering, anything like that, can you guys stand up as well too? And everyone stand up? All right, everyone give them a big hand of applause, round of applause, because y'all are what making this show this year super special, so thank you. Wow, you guys got a lot of good students. All right, so first up, we're gonna introduce Eugene. Take that mic right there and tell us all about who you are, Eugene, where you came from, what drives your soul into this crazy hobby.
Well, hi everybody, I'm Eugene Mosh, AKA Eugene Mosh on the groups. 2013 was my first Texas Pinball Festival when Medieval Madness Remake came out. Woo. And then my second festival was the next one, which would be Attack from Mars Remake. That was when I got my first pinball repair recognition here. And then from then on, I've been helping on the floor and in the tournament area, and then it just became the tournament area. But I started way back in the day. Working on,
look at that guy.
Way back in the day. That would be me in 1981. I used to work for a guy that built video slots and poker machines, and I became a bar flight tech, working on old Merit machines and US Games trivia machines, if you guys remember those, before touchscreens were invented. And I got into the actual arcade side of this. Even though I did play some pinball, I got in the arcade side of it, and that was a world record I did in 81. I had the continuous record for about a year and a half on 1/4, 39 hours. And then, I don't know, fast forward to the 90s, I worked for an operator that had multiple locations, multiple techs, and I worked on boards, Atari, Williams, Midway, Bally was my department. And then one of those guys left, and I ended up working on pinball boards. So for about 8 years before I even put my hands on a pinball machine, I was working on the boards alone. They had test fixtures. They had Bally, Stern, Williams, and System 11. So WPC was pretty new back then, and so there wasn't too many failures. But after that, and fast forward to the 2000s, I got a job at a distributor, a big distributor. He had all the fixtures. White Star, Daddy East, Williams, WPC 11, and continued to work on boards, and actually got my hands on actual games. So it really helped me working on boards for a long time to get into machines, because it just almost became natural for me. And so, I don't know, with that, it's kind of history, you know, then it's, you know, here I am now.
Oh yeah, tell us about you have these asteroid cabinets.
Oh yeah, so the asteroids, I was going to talk about that when we talked about manuals, but that's my first game I ever bought, a Tempest. I still own it. You know, I was back in the 80s, and I didn't think that you could put stickers on a game that would cause devalue. So, I don't know, I think it was cool, but, and then I was going to talk about my asteroids when we talked about manuals, because You know, so I'm 59 and a half years old. I have a beautiful wife. I've got 2 kids, Matthew and Monet. Not this Matthew, but could be. But and Taylor. And I call Taylor Whirlwind because she's spinning in 3 different directions, and you guys should know what that means. So, and here I'm glad to do this. I'm here. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Eugene. All right, and next up we have Matthew Talley. Tell us all about how you got here today, Matthew.
I got here today. I own Lynn's Arcade out in Seaside, California. We started a league back in 2014, and then I ended up learning as I went to work on games. This kind of just been like a learn as you go situation for me. I was terrified to take the glass off of my first game. I was able to get coached by my business partner, and then slowly but surely, now I'm in this situation where I'm working on games every single day. We got 39 games set up at Lynn's Arcade that are constantly needing maintenance, and so I pretty much live there. And yeah, work on games every single day. Pleasure to be here with Eugene. I can't wait to learn more about board work. I do minor board work, but he is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this, so I can't wait to hear what he has to say on that subject. I'm pretty proficient in the tech or the mechanics side, so doing flipper rebuilds and pop bumper rebuilds and drop target rebuilds, like all that mechanic stuff is I'm pretty hands-on with that, and I can figure that stuff out pretty easily. But the board work side, I can't wait to learn some more from Eugene.
Yeah, awesome. So let's get on into it. Basically, you guys want to go over just the very preliminary, the basic tools you would need for pinball.
So like basic tools for pinball repair, you're looking at your screwdriver set. You want your number 1, your number 2. The number 1's going to be like a nice little skinny screwdriver, Phillips, and then the number 2 is going to be for your bigger screws. The nut driver set, you got 2 different types. You got a long hollow shaft, and then you have a shorter one with a magnet tip in it, and those are super helpful. Making sure that you don't drop nuts down into the play field or under your game. Yeah.
Those are hard to find.
Yeah. The Allen key set, the full Allen key set for your flipper rebuilds. Definitely need that. Your telescopic magnet tool or your claw in case you do drop a nut down in the bottom, and then you have a nice telescopic magnet tool to drop in there and pick that guy up. Switch adjusters, you got 3 different angles on your switch adjusters. You definitely want to get a pack of those. Pliers, snips, your wire strippers, and your desoldering and soldering station. That's kind of your basic 101 setup. Anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I have magnetic tips, but magnetic tips are not hollow shank. And a lot of times with games that, especially when you start getting into the 90s, mid-90s, late 90s, you need hollow shank because a lot of the posts are starting to get tall because they stack a lot of stuff on top of them. So Marcos, I also want to say thank you for Marcos Specialties for sponsoring this. Really do appreciate that. But a lot of good tools there. They got an adapter set for hollow shank that can go into a regular set. It's really cool. But I was going to also say that hollow shank helps me out.
For sure. All right, and one of the most important features of a pinball machine, really, is the flippers. And you need those working good. So why is that, Matthew? And what can we do to get our flippers constantly playing the way we need them to?
So yeah, flippers are definitely your backbone of your pinball machine. Keeping them strong and being able to make your shots. They do get weak, they do get worn out. The flipper plunger going into that coil stop is going to bash enough to where it gets a nice little burr on the end of it. That's going to end up wearing your coil sleeve out, wearing your coil stop out, and slowing your flippers down and making them super weak. When you need to do it, anytime I clean and wax my games, I end up pulling one coil stop off and just checking it just to make sure that it's not worn out. If you have worn out coil stop there. Nice bird plunger. So I check them periodically. So anytime I clean and wax, I definitely check my coil stops and my flipper plungers. to see if they have that burr kind of around the edge of it, because then it's grabbing that coil sleeve and making it nice and weak. We lost our, what's next?
Maybe switch it to the, there you go. It's me now, look up. Oh.
Oh.
I think just go into the showing how to do the
Cool. Something that I do also perform on games, like on these older style Williams mechs, you have this kind of conical spring, and I like to replace these with a newer model flipper mech that has the spring attached to the end, and that kind of makes my flippers like more active and like more snappy.
So this is called compression spring. This is retention.
Compression and retention.
This is the same spring as in a drop target assembly.
Right. It just seems to like make a snappier return on my flipper bats that come down. So I kind of upgrade. I get a new plate, use the same coil from the old game, transfer over to the new game or the new flipper plate, and that makes a really strong action in the older games. Which kind of surprises people at Lynn's, where they get down, you know, everything kind of plays the same, and then it gets down to the flippers, and all of a sudden they're super snappy, and they're like, what did you do? So doing a basic rebuild, if we just kind of go straight into that, there's two kind of ways of doing it that I have found. Like, one is you can pull the whole mech out of the game, and pulling it out, it makes it kind of easier to work on your end-of-stroke switch, and kind of get all the mechs out, or all the parts out quickly. Doing it in the game, if you have to get to your end-of-stroke switch, it's kind of tough to get that screwdriver kind of up and in there. So you're going to end up unsoldering 3 wires off the coil, take your 4 quarter-inch screws, or your 4 sets of quarter-inch screws out, pull your plate out, and put it on a bench. At that point, you get your hex key, go down into the flipper coil stop, excuse me. Do this real quick, nice and tight. So when you pull the coil stop off, you can kind of see on this one, it is worn and kind of cratered. I don't know if you can see that. Mushroom, and then you pull your flipper or your coil out. Pull your coil sleeve out of your coil, you'll see how dirty that is, and that's also going to kind of slow everything down. And I pull my flipper pawl off and my spring, which you use your pliers for. And then on that, you can see it kind of mushroomed as well, so it's got a nice little like burr on the edge of it. And so what that's doing is when this is going through the coil sleeve, it's grabbing that coil sleeve and like slowing your flippers down. If you need to replace your end of stroke at that point, you got your couple screws, put it back on, then you're gonna have to resolder this all back together. Then you have your bushing in here. Get your little 5/8 on the, it's got nuts on the back. So also if you do need to replace your bushing, you definitely have to pull your whole assembly apart.
Usually the bushings are usually okay, but when they start to crack, that's when you definitely want to replace it, because
Yeah.
they become wobbly and offset, and the screws really don't do anything.
Yeah, and then they end up like getting stuck. Your flippers will stick up.
And also regarding the EOS switch, you want to make sure it closes when the flipper is down, and then actually physically see it gap open when the flipper's up. So a good rule of thumb is to do it by hand first and watch it. And also watch it when you actually flipper it. So we'll look at that when we get to the game for the camera.
Yeah, another thing I learned was not actually actuating it from the bracket with your hand. It's actuating it from here by hand, because then the end of stroke actually works a little differently if you do it from the top. It might actually
Yes, it does.
not open.
Also, weak flippers, this hole right here,
Oh, yeah.
that is worn. When it gets worn, the flipper, this is the plunger link assembly, and you can physically move this. This is so worn. I mean, look at that gap. So you really want very little movement. So, I mean, so the thing's pulling, and it takes that much space for it to actually grab. So when it's not worn, it grabs instantly.
There's also a little bushing inside of that. It's a little metal bushing that actually fits inside the little ring here. And if you lose that, this is going to end up being ovaled out faster. So you want to make sure you hang on to those little.
Time.
Yeah, they just, because it's just plastic at that point instead of metal on metal. All right. Then we got our new.
Can you put up like the difference of the old one and the new one?
Oh, yeah. So that's the old one and that's the new one. So you can really see when that plunger gets smashed down, one, you're losing or you're gaining a lot more throw on your flipper. So it's going to look like it's stuck up a lot more as opposed to like 3/4. It'll just be like, it'll be at a steeper angle.
And another thing with compression springs is you want to use, if you're using compression springs like this one right here, you want a conical plunger link. And if you're using retention, you can use either. But the retention, if you put a flatter plunger link here, this just jams up and it starts, the spring starts to bust. So you want the conical plunger link when you're using compression spring compared to the flatter. If you notice, to see how flat that is, the white piece. So if you put a compression spring on this, the spring gets mashed and it actually doesn't even flip right. So something to think about. So when you update to retention springs, it doesn't matter what plunger link you use, as long as this is the same length.
I lost my spring. There it is. So when putting these springs back on, I try to put it on that link first, because the spot to like attach it back to this guy is a little bit more, it's thinner, so it's easier to get that second part on. You want to make sure you put these back. I grabbed the wrong one. Yeah, I grabbed the wrong side link. It's the one I pulled out. Also, you want to make sure you put the right side in. And I lost my kid.
How often do you do flipper rebuilds on your games at the arcade?
We try to do flipper rebuilds pretty frequently, so probably every few months, but we have a lot of plays that happen at the arcade. I don't know where it went. Anyway, we'll pretend that this is the new one. You can see that I grabbed the wrong side. So like the way it's shaped, this is actually supposed to be on the other side of the other flipper. There's like left and right on each one of them. So he goes back in. I like to use a little small screwdriver to kind of hold him into place, acting like a flipper. Get your new coil sleeve that's nice and brand new. Slide him in. That's your new coil stop that's nice and flat. He goes back on there.
Well, yes. How you can kind of tell you need a flipper rebuild is obviously when they start to get weak, you have curiosity problems. So like he just mentioned, mushroom flip coil stops is one. The sleeve, when it gets real chipped on the end. So even though the sleeve is dirty, doesn't mean it's bad. You know, overheated coil, the sleeve will not come out smoothly. So sometimes that can be a sign, because when this gets hot, it actually changes size. So this being an exact symmetrical, it lags. And then the main part would be plunger link, when it's just got so much play within the link itself and the plunger. Let's see, loose wood screws.
Yeah.
When you can actually grab it, you can actually grab the flipper, and it moves, and you go, oh man, the thing is loose. So, if you tighten the screw and it goes tight, hey, that's great. If you turn the screw and it keeps turning, your wood the hole is gone. So, toothpicks are good. Gorilla Glue. I worked on a Medieval Madness one time, and they put the biggest screws in the plate and destroyed the plate, and the holes are so big, and I ended up drilling a 1/4-inch hole in all of them and put a 1/4-inch wood dowel with Gorilla Glue, and that was years ago, and it's been solid since.
Oh, nice.
So, Gorilla Glue is pretty good.
Something also I like to touch on with the older style Williams stuff, they ended up putting your leads to your coil on the coil stop side. So I like to try to redo these. I'm gonna have to cut wire and redo run new stuff, and I flip it around to be like this orientation, because when this plunger ends up tagging this coil stop a whole bunch, you might end up breaking off your leads on the back side of the coil. So that's just another little trick that I had learned from some online, I think it was vid.
So other questions I've read in groups is when the flipper flips, but when you want to hold it, it's chattering.
Yes.
So that is your hold winding. So a coil is literally a straight wire. It's 3 straight wires. So if it's dead, make sure you have voltage to it. You could have an open winding. And if it's chattering, means the hold winding is open. And sometimes it's either a broken diode, but a lot of times it's the actual wire vibrated and broke off from the lug. Mm. And that is actually copper insulated?
It's insulated.
Copper insulated, and you got to get a knife and scrape away to the steel, and then you can actually just add a little bit of wire, put it back to the lug, good to go. I've done that many times in tough situations, in important situations. So.
Yeah, Rick and Morty has that issue. We keep having to strip it and then rewrap it. Yeah. So that's your kind of a basic flipper rebuild on a Williams flipper.
I think we need to move.
Mm-hmm.
Just you want to quickly talk about if you can do that, you can do other mechs.
Other mechs? So other mechs are like pop bumpers. So here's our broken pop bumper with a broken bracket at the bottom. This guy comes through the playfield like this, has a little spoon actuator on the bottom that fires this down through to make your pop bumpers work. I've had this bracket broke off on quite a few old Williams games, so I'd like to keep a couple of these at the arcade. This side is completely missing. So
I call them exploding.
Exploding, yeah, they just blast apart.
They just explode and they're broke. And the ring is just hanging down and the ball hits it and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. This is your drop target bank out of Meteor. Imoto actually had to work on this. She had a couple drop targets broken. So getting this guy apart, it looks daunting, but once you kind of get into it, make sure you're taking pictures and making sure you're kind of seeing how it comes apart, and just take your time. That's the biggest thing that I can say in mech repair is take your time. Don't force anything back together. Make sure, if you're new at it, you definitely want to take a bunch of photos.
You'll lose stuff. The other thing, this particular one actually comes out. And a lot of them, and especially Williams, did not have this feature where you can unplug it. Yeah. So like he said, take your time, take it out of the game. Don't try to rebuild broken targets inside the game propped up like that, because
and EMs, they don't have the Molex connectors. They don't pull out. So you're going to have to unsolder some wires in order to get the whole plate out of it. But it's way easier to work on these on a bench. So definitely pull it out of your playfield.
My Alien Poker, I cut the wires and made a
Made a
female
mullet.
connector.
Yeah.
I just and then took it out and rebuilt it on the bench and then plugged it back in and everything's
Perfect.
fine. Because if I ever had to work on it again, I got to take it out.
Just pull it apart,
I'm
yeah,
like,
for
mad,
sure.
mad at myself. So pop bumpers, let's go over here to a game here. Or back to the flippers. So flippers, these older games, don't run on transistors. Same with Williams. The only time when they started using transistor-based flippers was starting the WPC. So older games, the coils are always live with voltage. And when you start a game, there's a relay on the board that enables ground. The ground goes through the board, down to the flipper switch, up into the coil. So the flipper always has voltage, and what activates it is the ground. So sometimes when people go, oh, I just rebuilt my flipper and it's still weak. Well, one of the ways you can check, you can physically squeeze this and see if it's weak or not. Don't do it very long because that is your EOS switch. What the EOS switch does is it kills your high voltage to put the hold winding on. So, it'll get hot. So even... Hello, can you guys hear me? So, so even with the hold, you're okay. I'm here. You're talking to my buddy. We're at the Texas Pinball Festival, and he comes over and we start talking. You're holding the ball. Eventually, it will burn up. So don't think just because you got the hold, the gap switch, everything. Eventually it will. So, but EOSs are pretty important. They don't need to be changed at every flipper rebuild.
Right.
I help run this arcade in Springfield, Missouri, and yes, I probably need to do more flipper rebuilds than I need to do. Attack with Mars.
We
is
definitely
so bad.
kind of do it right before like any major tournament that we're going to run. We make sure to go through and check everything, see what's sluggish, what's not, and then that way when we get to our tournament setting, everything's snappy and fiery and ready to go. Same with the pop bumpers and the kickers. We want to make sure that everything is firing on all cylinders when we do major tournaments.
So this particular game does not have pop bumpers, but it has also slings. We were going to talk about slings. Slings, this particular game runs on a leaf switch. When you touch the switch, it goes to the board, tells the board to fire the voltage. If you hold it, it's just going to do that, and eventually it's going to burn up and blow the transistor on the board. Those games, the roller games, System 11's a little different. It's actually controlled. So high voltage doesn't go, it doesn't detect high voltage like the older games do. But at the same time, you want those gapped. I kind of like mine a little tight, so when it kind of touches it, it throws it off. But I don't want it tight enough where it's going to be doing this when the ball is somewhere else. So this also particular game has old style job target assemblies, but the horseshoes, if anybody's rebuilt or worked on these are not fun. My personal games, I don't even bother with horseshoes. I go right to the end, whatever it is, the magnetic switches, the troxels, that's it. The troxel switches work fantastic. I got them in a few of my games, and they work great. Horseshoe switches can be intermittent. Hey, I knocked that down. It's not resetting. I see a lot of that. Well, you got to go and do switch tests and make sure all the drop targets are up, pinballs are out, and knock them down one by one to see if it registers. If the middle one doesn't register, you got a horseshoe adjustment problem, or just go to magnetic and you won't have that problem. But we'll go into manual switches stuff, I guess, right about now. So, huh? Okay. So I got a picture up there of two different kind of meters. One is an auto range and one is a manual. I have actually both. So I use both. I know what voltage is what. I know when to set the meter at, and blah, blah, blah. But the auto range is actually pretty cool because if you're working on 5 volts, 22 volts, 76 volts, 100 volts, you don't have to switch the dial between the range you're working on. So same with the AC. The AC has a couple different ranges. I believe it's 2 and 200 up there, and the DC has, I think, 5. It's a little far away for me to see, but nevertheless, when you're working with a manual meter, make sure you're in range. Hey, I'm reading this voltage setting and I'm getting OL or whatever it is, and it's not right. So you just need to know. We'll get in the manuals when we do that. There's also some other symbols on here. You have your diode symbol and your beeper symbol and your ohms. So let's lift this back up. Oh, wait. So we're going to measure some voltages here. On a lot of these games, there's a braid right here. Almost everyone has this game, or has this braid. This is ground. It's just ground. The other way you can find easy grounds is a screw hole. Yes, the back panel is steel, the back panel is ground. I know sounds crazy, but that is true. So like right here, power supply ground, that screw right there. If you look close, the back end of this capacitor literally is tied to that plane, which is tied to that screw, that's ground. There are test points on these boards. This system doesn't label anything, so that's why the manual is very important, but it actually has the test points. They look like this. They're all over the board. You have to look at the diagram and find what the ground test point is, but in this case, right there is a good ground, or there. So I'm going to go back to measuring flipper voltage because I see a lot of this in the groups. So some people don't have a clip lead this long. I fortunately do. This is actually not mine. I borrowed this from my good buddy John over here in the front row because he's got all the cool tools that I don't. I'd have to put 3 or 4 together.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get one of those.
So like I said, the coil is a straight wire winding. No matter what lead you're going to touch, let's hopefully I don't touch anything I'm not supposed to and blow anything up live on camera. Every lead has voltage. Look at that. So like I said, the book manual in this case, I believe it's the dark blues, is your power. And then when you flip ground, there's my hold, there's my 0. So the dark blue is my voltage, my light blue is my ground. There you go. So, hey, my flippers aren't working. What do I do next? Well, the first thing you want to do is you see if you got voltage at your coil. I don't have voltage on my coil. Well, have you checked your fuses? Yes, I have. I've even seen this. Well, with the power off, the fuse is in line with AC circuit. An AC circuit is just like a coil. It's a straight wire winding through the transformer. So if you're going to measure your fuse in circuit with the power off, don't do it with the power on because you're going to blow the function in your meter. You're actually going to get a reading going, oh, my fuse tech's good. Did you pull it out of circuit? I did not. We'll pull it out. Oh, man, it's bad. There you go. So then you got to see either why it blew, if it's an old fuse. I mean, some of these games.
And you definitely don't trust checking it visually.
Yeah, don't. Because you know what? After time, you can actually see the fuse, a good fuse, and you can kind of tilt it in the light, and it's actually gray, which is a good fuse. So this is voltages. Let's go back to this. So that's voltage. This particular game has one high voltage that uses for everything. Flippers, coils, slings. It's 1 voltage. Actually, you can rest it right there as long as you don't touch a coil lug on the metal bracket, which is ground. It won't blow anything. So we're running in diagnostics. This particular game, this connector right here is your coil connector. It also has a ground in here because some games, like this particular game, has magnets. This is almost a near identical game to Jungle Lord and Black Knight 1980. Personally, I think Jungle Lord is one of the best games. So fun, especially with the code update, but that's near hearsay. So sometimes I tell people, okay, you check your voltages? Yeah, I did. Okay, well, let's check them on the fuse. Oh, I got voltage on one side. Here's another way you can check. You got both sides of the fuse is gonna have your exact same voltage. This particular game has flipper fuse and a separate coil fuse, even though they run the same voltage. Then here's my lamp voltage, both sides, and then this is my AC fuse for high voltage, because I'm not gonna get any reading because I'm on DC setting. So DC setting is a straight line, AC setting, because this particular game runs high voltage, plus and minus 100. It starts with, I want to say 90 volts. It starts with 90 volts. So if I'm on ground, there it is, 90 volts. Wow, that was pretty close, huh? Other side of the fuse, we're not going to touch anything else and blow up Kevin's game. That's really wonderful. So Kevin's game was a project game. He's selling it as is, even though it comes on. Me, I would do every board in this. Even though it doesn't have the interconnector changed, it's still working. If you're playing it for a long time, probably vibration might make one of these pins not make contact, the game's gonna blank out. The other thing is you're gonna probably have a good hum in this. I got the speaker disconnected right now, so we're not listening to the track sounds. All the original caps are probably gonna have a loud hum. Can I promote someone else? So Big Daddy, if you're me, I mean, I work on boards. We work on boards all the time. I buy caps in bulk. I don't buy separate kits, but people like Big Daddy Enterprises out of St. Joe, he sells individual kits for everything individual. Individual kits for the power supply, individual kits for the soundboard, Bally, Stern, Williams. So he is a great source of parts. He doesn't do any, he doesn't do board repairs, but he got lots of parts, sells lots of stuff. So this has old caps. So this probably, I don't have the speaker playing, but it's got probably a good hum. The other thing is, it's got, I don't know, I just laugh because I'm a board guy, I'm a tech guy. It's got an old cap. This is your main, it's like running a car. You're not gonna run your car for 40 years in the same oil, right? No, you're not. So I get a lot of flack with, I'm an Atari guy too, a lot of arcade guy, I get a lot of flack. Not a lot, I get a couple guys in the diehard purists that say your Big Blue and your Atari games are not bad. Well, I'm not gonna run my car on 40 years of the same oil. Same with this. This is the lifeblood of your 5 volts. 5 volts runs all the boards. And if you got ripple in your 5 volts, you got low 5 volts, even though the game's running, especially with later games, with Williams later games, you get multi-ball and bam, your game resets. So, has anybody had a game reset in the middle of a multi-ball? Right, I'm sure there's a few of you know what I'm talking about. That's bad, low 5 volts. So, and it's not just changing all the caps. There's other procedures to do to it. I can't get into that right now because we got not too much time left. But I did want to get into other things. So that's some voltages, hum, test points. When you get into later games, let's set this back down. That's a cool, got mirror blades on here, man. Man, that's cool. When you get into later games, they actually got smart and they labeled a lot of stuff. And they actually labeled fuse numbers and a lot of stuff. In this particular case, there's actually a plus, I know it's upside down, but it says plus V, 5V. And right here is G and D. Well, same thing in this case with that case. Each screw is ground. So instead of trying to get your meter here into the actual ground test point, you're gonna slip, touch a reset transistor, and now your game's, hey, I was trying to test my board and I slipped the meter and now my game's not coming on. Well, for me, I just use a screw hole, and you can just do the lug. Where'd it go? Right there. What's it say? Oh, I'm an AC. Put it on DC for me. There you go. Oh, 4.88. So this game's going to so this game might reset in multi-ball later on. He might have mentioned that to
So
you.
that's enough to do it. Just like
Yeah.
0.12 is enough for it to
Yep.
go low voltage
Yep.
and reset.
So, I mean, you know, old original cap. This game was built in 87, I believe. So, I mean, you're running on a 5 old cap. So, what else can we talk about electronically here real fast? Okay. All right, so here's we're going to go into some of the functions real fast. So, here, that's unplugged. Okay. So a lot of games, old games, have diagnostics. This one's super easy. It has one red button. Bam, you're in diagnostics. This game has got the up-down button or a toggle switch. You go down, hit the advance, go up. You're in diagnostics. Displays run on high voltage, plus and minus 100. If you have no displays, you should be able to see a little teeny orange glow. If you do, you got high voltage. My game's running, no displays. Well, you might need to consult, you know, give me a call, we'll work through it. There's a controller on the board back. The controller board could be bad. No signals could be coming from the MPU, but that's a rare case. You would see at least something. So you cycle through. It's going through sounds right now. Lamps, coils, and then switches. We're gonna do test on this one because this is a little more easier and less blowing up. Same with the music. My game works, but got no music. One of the things you could do is actually flip the ribbon cable. So red stripe to red stripe, pin 1 to pin 1. If you flip both ends and the non-red stripe is on pin 1 on both ends, you still have a complete ribbon cable. That's how you can tell if you have a ribbon cable problem or not. Same with display. You can actually flip both ends and put the non-red stripe on pin 26 and see, because one side of it is ground, one side is not, or you can see if it changes in data or not. Let's
Did
see.
this the other day. I had to do it, and it worked, and it blew my mind.
Yeah. Display test. This has got cool sounds in this game. Okay, here's your price of admission. So if you got 2 bulbs out, hey, my game is not working, I got 2 bulbs out. Is that my board? It is impossible for your board to be bad if you have 2 bulbs out. This game runs on a 64 lamp 8x8 matrix. So if 2 bulbs are out and the other 6 are working, it is not your board. One of the ways you can check if it's your board, we're gonna do this with power on, but just be comfortable when you do this. Go, hey, Eugene, I got some of my lamps out. I don't know if it's the playfield or not. Well, this is what I was telling you on the phone. Take your connector, you can actually tilt it 45-degree. Reason I say 45, you can actually put one pin in. So we got yellow black. So yellow black is lighting up my Williams. Okay, that's awesome. You can go down the line. Oh man, working. Oh man, it's out. So pin 1, 2, 3, 4 is out. Working. Oh, okay, so this is where the manual comes in. We don't have much time, but this is where the manual comes in. It's very important to have a manual and know where you're actually at, not to second guess. People ask all the time, and I know it might sound rude or blunt, but I would say, have you checked the book, the manual, the wire diagram? Oh, I'm not very good at that. Well, you gotta learn, because, I mean, I did this in the 80s before there was MySpace and Facebook, and I just studied and read the book, and I figured it out that pin 4 is gonna be, you know, whatever that is, yellow, black. You look in the book, oh man, my yellow back. So, yeah, if you got a board problem, then you gotta backtrack. It could be the transistor, it could be the gate. That picture that was up there with my Astros board real fast, I bought that game in man, like 1987, 400 bucks. It's the same today as a Project Asteroids. Got it home, I actually opened the book up, and it read about diagnostics, self-test. I flipped the self-test switch and went, dee, 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 So the book says 4 beeps is a RAM. I don't know what it beeped. So I read the beep, I'm doing board repair for other stuff. So that was the very first arcade game board I ever worked on, was an Asteroids. Changed the RAM, came up. So manuals, they're good to know, they're good to have. I mean, it's good to, and it also feels good when you actually maybe kind of accomplish something on your own instead of just having a panic post and go, man, you know, so, and I see this too where people, I'm driving. Well, if you're driving and you're making this post, you can look up Internet Pinball Database and find it. So you could do that on both ends on the lamp. Hey, everyone works here. You go to the red, do the same with the red. Turn it 45 degrees. Oh, okay. Those are lighting up. Awesome. Go down the line. Awesome. Down the line. Oh, man, number 5 is out. You got to look in the book. Number 5. Whatever it is. Red, orange, and you got to backtrack through red, orange on the board. So if it's a transistor, could be a gate, could be a PIA. So this is where you got to learn how to use a logic probe and just, you know, find the pulses and go from there. I wanted to show, and oh, that's also the same concept with switches too. So, oh, man, we're running out of time. What am I on? Okay. Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah. Hey, lift that up and put that target up real fast. Okay, thank you. Real fast. Same with switches. You don't need a diode. A diode is actually a electronic switch. So the switch matrix, same thing. 8x8, 64 switches. If you got a bad lamp diode, if it's a shorted lamp diode, that lamp's going to be on. Won't affect any other light. If it's open, the lamp's not going to come on. It might make other bulbs in that row blink. But a switch, do this with the power off. I got his coil power unplugged. Oh, another thing with lamps. Here's your coil power and your flasher power. This game has coil and flasher. If you're putting LEDs in the game, I see this all the time. Man, I was putting LEDs in my game with the power on, and now I got problems. So I do this all the time. I unplug my high voltage, and I can put LEDs in the game when the power's on, because a lot of people want to see the light work and adjust it and that color and all that. So always unplug your high voltage when you're working with playfield lights. Okay, the diode's just a switch, but we can test switches with just a straight jumper. Hopefully I don't get shocked here. So when you touch one wire to one, that's when I tell people in the groups. Touch 1 to 1. Can you read that? Can you see that? Number, pin 1 to pin 1. So switch 8. Down the line, pin 7. Only one switch should be activated on the screen when you do 1 to 1. If you go, down the line, that's how you can test if your board is bad or not. Hey, I got switch problems. Well, is it your board? Each one should test individually. Only one. If you get something that's got like 3, 4, 5, when you touch one, your board is bad. So that is a great way to test if you got playfield problems or board problems. So, man, I know we were wrapping. I could go on for a long time on games and boards. Should we do crimpers now? What do you want me to do?
What are we at?
5, 4 minutes?
Yeah. Do you
You want to do crimpers?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
So a lot of these older games, they have IDC connectors. That is a special tool. They did that in the factory because old ladies, all they did was work in the factory and worked on the loom. Chink, 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 chink. That's all they did. Ladies built these games, and they had steel gloves and soldered all the time in steel gloves. That's why these wires are so short, twisted together. And how did they do that back in the day? My hand is burning. They had steel gloves, these ladies. So today, we do not have, oh, I'm going to cut up a good harness here, Matt. Gosh darn it. No, the humanity. It's okay. No.
Sorry, we'll put it back together. We'll put it back together.
These come in LCD screens, people. Who loves LCD screens? So, depending on what I'm going to crimp, there's two kinds of pins. So we don't use IDE anymore. We use, what do we use?
Molex.
Molex, Triferricon. I keep saying C. IDC grabs only by one side of the pin. If you look at the actual thing inside, it grabs by one side. It's rounded and it's rounded. So a lot of these later games became square headers, which is great. Triferricon is a three-sided pin. Triferricon, three. Three-sided. Man, it's great. So I have a few here. And Marco Specialties, our buddies over there,
That's an IDC, right?
have crimpers. They actually have crimpers that have 4 positions on it. These I've had for, 20 years, a long time. So the small ones are 0.100. They go in the first one. I do a little tension, a little flat. Really, you just get a little insulation in it. Look at that, perfect crimp.
Beautiful.
I even bought a connector. It has a locking tab. Now, the little baby ones are not Triferricon. Has a little locking tab. Goes right in. If you need to take this out, you go, oh, God, Eugene, I put it in the wrong pin, shoot. I meant to put it over one. Well, obviously, fix it. Don't plug it in like that. I use an X-Acto knife and bend that in, just press in that and put a little tension, press it, and it pops right out. The Triferricon on the hand does not pop out easily. It's going to rip out, and you're going to have to do it all over again. So if I am crimping 22 gauge wire, 18 gauge, you don't have to do this. This is just me. I strip it about a 1/4 inch. I fold it over.
Yeah, that's the trick I needed.
Why, Eugene? Because the Triferricon is, yes, it's designed for 22 gauge, but it's also designed for 26 gauge. So I fold the steel part over, get a little teeny bit of insulation in, and crimp it.
Wow.
So I fold it over. That is another price of admission today.
Yeah, that's going to save me so much time from
So
like my little
if you're running
things falling off.
If you're running 18 gauge wire, you only need to do, I don't know, what is that, 1/8 of an inch? But if you're using 22 gauge, this is probably even 26, I don't know. Fold it over. I got bad nails, but I can still do it. Fold it over.
Oh, that's brilliant.
All right? Man, that went by so fast.
Racing.
Yeah.
Make
So,
sure we get a longer time slot.
yeah,
Yeah,
again,
for
I want
sure.
to thank Marco Specialties. They got a lot of great tools, parts. We got free shipping for at least half more days. Thank you for Big Daddy for letting me plug. He got great cap kits, like I said, but I do them in bulk, so I buy. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else, man.
I think that was pretty good.
Yeah. Soldering, we're not gonna be able to get to that.
Yeah.
All right. So, and thank you, Texas Pinball Festival. Thank you all for
Yeah,
coming.
thank you,
I know we
guys.
have this much of a house.
Hope we're able to teach you a little something.
I also wanted to shout out to Dave Brooks. Anybody remember Dave Brooks? He came to the Pinball Festival in 2012 and came back to Springfield and said, oh, I want to do a tournament. So he came to this 84 arcade where I was only fixing arcade games at the time. And then those guys, Devin and Jason, came to me and said, hey, this guy Dave wants to have a tournament here. But we need to have all the games in tip-top shape. All the switches working, all the flashes working, because our games really just flipped and no stuck balls. So they all work great now, and we had tournaments there, and Dave came for many more years. So shout out to Dave Brooks. So getting me really into Texas. So because I've been here in a couple of years, so I'm really thankful that I got to come. Desiree came with me. I'm so happy. Tom, Pat, John, Jimmy B.
So stoked.
Love Jimmy B. Matt, thank you. We'll be doing some PinTech Live together.
Yeah, check us out. We'll be doing
check me
that.
out, and you follow Imoto Arcade. But thank you, everybody. Scott Martin, appreciate it, everybody.
Next, the next.
Oh, you want to put my card up?
Oh yeah, I can. It was up earlier. I think people took a picture.